Most beginners think app building starts when somebody opens a tool and begins creating screens. But honestly, most successful apps begin long before that moment. They begin with observation, planning, thinking, clarification, workflow understanding, user frustration, simplification. This is where many beginners skip important steps. They rush straight toward tools, prompts, app generators, AI builders, without understanding what problem they are solving, who the user is, why the app matters, what the workflow should feel like. And that usually creates confusion very quickly. Because technology cannot fix unclear thinking, that idea matters enormously. The strongest AI apps usually begin with clear understanding before practical execution. And honestly, this lesson may save many beginners from months of frustration. In this lesson, you're going to understand what happens before app building starts, why planning matters, what MVP thinking really means, why user understanding matters, how workflows shape app ideas, why simplification matters, why beginners overcomplicate ideas, and how clear thinking improves app direction. By the end of this lesson, you'll realize something important. The quality of the thinking before building often shapes the quality of the app itself. Let's begin with something simple. Apps are not random collections of features. Apps are systems solving problems. That means before somebody builds anything useful, they usually need clarity around the problem, the user, the workflow, the desired outcome. This is why planning matters, not because planning sounds professional, but because unclear ideas often create confusing products. Imagine building a house without understanding who will live there, how many rooms are needed, what the purpose of the space is, how people move through the building. The result would probably feel chaotic. Apps work similarly, and honestly, beginners often underestimate how valuable clear thinking becomes before practical creation starts. Why most beginners try to build too much? This happens constantly. A beginner gets excited about AI app building and immediately imagines huge platforms, endless features, giant systems, complicated workflows, and very quickly the idea becomes overwhelming. This is where MVP thinking becomes important. You heard this term earlier, minimum viable product. The simpler explanation is, what is the smallest useful version of this idea? That mindset changes everything, because beginners often think bigger means better, but bigger usually creates more confusion, more complexity, more stress, more unfinished ideas. Meanwhile, simpler focused ideas often move forward faster. Why simplicity creates momentum? This is important psychologically. Simple ideas feel easier to understand. Easier ideas feel easier to test. Easier testing creates faster learning, and faster learning improves clarity. This is why many successful apps start surprisingly small. For example, a reminder tool, a simple booking assistant, a content organizer, a scheduling workflow, an FAQ assistant. Small focused usefulness often beats overwhelming complexity, and honestly, beginners should hear this more often. You do not need to build everything immediately. Why user understanding matters so much? This is one of the most important ideas in app creation generally. If you do not understand the user properly, the app usually struggles. Because apps exist to help humans, that means good app thinking often starts with questions like, who is this for? What frustration exists? What feels annoying currently? What outcome does the user want? What feels confusing? What would make this easier? These questions matter more than many beginners realize. Because technology without user understanding often creates products nobody enjoys using. Real-life example, a busy parent. Imagine a parent constantly struggling to organize school schedules, shopping lists, reminders, appointments, family activities. Now imagine somebody trying to create a useful AI-supported organizer for them. The creator first needs understanding. Questions matter. What creates stress? What information matters most? What feels overwhelming? What would simplify daily life? That understanding shapes the system. Again, human understanding comes before technology. Why workflows matter in app planning? This word keeps appearing throughout the course because it's extremely important. A workflow is simply the sequence of steps something follows. Apps support workflows. That means beginners should start thinking, what process is happening here? For example, customer books appointment, confirmation gets sent, reminder appears later, schedule updates automatically. That sequence is a workflow. Understanding workflows helps beginners think more clearly about systems. And honestly, workflow thinking often matters more initially than technical thinking. Why beginners overcomplicate features? This is extremely common. People think if my app has more features, it becomes more valuable. Not always. Too many features can create confusion, clutter, complexity, poor usability, overwhelm. This is why focused usefulness matters. Users usually appreciate clarity, simplicity, speed, convenience. That's why some small simple apps succeed, while overly complicated products struggle. Why clarity before building saves time later. This lesson may save beginners enormous frustration. Many people rush into app creation without clear direction. Then later they realize the workflow feels confusing. The app solves the wrong problem. The features feel unnecessary. The user experience feels messy. Clear thinking earlier often prevents unnecessary confusion later. That's why planning matters. Not because planning sounds exciting, because clarity improves direction. Why problem definition matters. This is one of the hidden superpowers in app creation. People who define problems clearly often build stronger solutions. For example, weak definition. People need productivity, clearer definition. Freelancers struggle to organize multiple client deadlines efficiently. Notice the difference? Specific understanding improves solution thinking. That principle appears constantly in AI app building. Why AI apps still need human logic. Many beginners think AI automatically figures everything out, but AI systems still depend heavily on human structure, workflow logic, problem clarity, communication, user understanding. Again, AI supports thinking. It does not replace thoughtful planning automatically. That distinction matters enormously. Real-life example, a freelancer workflow. Imagine a freelancer constantly forgetting invoice follow-ups, client deadlines, onboarding steps, scheduling updates. Now think about planning a simple AI workflow helping organize those areas. Before building anything, somebody needs clarity around what tasks repeat most, what causes stress, what information matters, what actions should happen automatically. Those questions shape the workflow itself. Why app planning is really about reducing friction. This idea connects almost every lesson together. Good apps reduce friction. That means planning often involves identifying confusion, repetition, delays, frustration, unnecessary effort. Then asking, how can this become easier? That's the foundation behind many useful systems. Why beginners should learn to think like users. This mindset changes everything. Instead of asking, what features sound impressive, start asking, what feels helpful. That shift improves app thinking dramatically. Because users usually care less about technical sophistication and more about convenience, simplicity, speed, clarity, usability. And honestly, beginners who understand users well often develop stronger ideas. Why sketching ideas mentally matters. You do not need advanced technical diagrams initially, but beginners should start imagining what happens first, what happens next, what problem gets solved, what action should feel easy, what information matters most. This improves workflow clarity enormously, and workflow clarity improves app direction. Why many successful apps feel obvious afterwards. This is interesting psychologically. Many great ideas feel simple after somebody builds them. People say, why didn't this exist already? That usually happens because the creator understood a repeated frustration clearly. Simple, useful ideas often feel obvious after they appear. But observation created the opportunity first. Why beginners should stop chasing complexity. Complexity often creates delay. People think, I need something revolutionary. Meanwhile, useful simple ideas quietly create value every day. This is why many experienced builders often focus on practical usefulness, smooth workflows, reduced friction, simple experiences. Because simplicity improves usability, and usability creates value. Why user experience matters before building starts. User experience is not only about colors or design screens, it begins with understanding what users feel, what confuses them, what frustrates them, what feels slow, what feels stressful. That understanding shapes the entire app direction. And honestly, beginners who think carefully about human experience often build more useful systems conceptually. Why clear thinking creates better prompts too. Notice how these lessons connect together. Clearer thinking improves workflows, prompts, structure, planning, app direction. That's because AI app building depends heavily on communication and clarity. Again, better thinking creates better direction. Why starting small increases learning speed. Small experiments create faster feedback. Faster feedback improves understanding. Understanding improves decision making. That's why many successful builders start with one workflow, one frustration, one useful function, one clear audience, instead of trying to solve everything immediately. Why fear of imperfection stops many beginners. Some people spend months planning endlessly because they fear mistakes, but learning usually happens through testing ideas, refining workflows, noticing friction, improving gradually. Perfection rarely appears immediately, and honestly, beginners should stop expecting perfect clarity before taking action. Understanding often improves during the process itself, the hidden skill behind strong app planning. This may surprise beginners. One hidden skill behind strong app planning is empathy, understanding how people behave, what creates stress, what wastes time, what feels confusing, what users actually care about. Because useful systems begin with human understanding first, let's bring everything together clearly. Today you learned what happens before app building starts, why planning matters, what MVP thinking means, why workflows matter, why simplicity creates momentum, why user understanding matters enormously, why beginners overcomplicate ideas, why clear problem definition improves solutions, why useful apps reduce friction. Most importantly, you learned this. The quality of the thinking before building often shapes the quality of the final app experience. That understanding becomes extremely valuable moving forward. Before the next lesson, spend a few minutes thinking about this question. If you could simplify one frustrating workflow in your life or work, what would it be? Think carefully about what causes confusion, what feels repetitive, what wastes time, what feels stressful, what users actually need. Start training yourself to think like a problem solver, because problem solving sits behind many successful AI apps. And in the final lesson, we're going to bring everything together and explore your future in AI app building, how beginners continue growing from here, and why understanding this new AI direction may create opportunities for years to come. If you're enjoying this course, subscribe and continue to the next lesson, because that's where your understanding starts becoming much clearer.